Taking Control with Dr. Josh.
Making decisions together is a part of being a couple, but often decision-making can lead to frustration and arguments. Joining us today with some tips on collective decision-making is UAB psychologist Dr. Josh Claypo. Thanks so much for being here.
Gina.
Why is it that couples can make decisions all the time, fine, and then simple things like where to go for dinner can lead to a huge fight?
Because we tend to be pretty good at making decisions on our own, most of us, but we're not so good at making decisions as a couple. And it's a different approach. It's one thing to make a decision by yourself, but these decisions that we make as a couple very often get us into trouble. And it can be something as simple as dinner, or it can be something a little more complicated like, how are we going to save for college? The problem is it turns into huge fights that cause all kinds of other problems.
Okay, so what should couples do then?
You need to have a little bit of a game plan or an approach, and there's 4 or 5 things that you can do. And the first thing is, believe it or not, set a goal for the discussion. Here's what I mean by this. You talk about where we're going to go for dinner. A lot of times that turns into finances, each other's eating habits, all these other sorts of things. So before you have the conversation, you need to say to each other, all right, we are going to talk about where we're going to go for dinner and nothing else. And it needs to be said between the two of you.
So what do you mean by you should monitor the discussion? How do you do that?
Well, once you've set that goal, then you need to pay attention to what you're talking about, what your spouse is talking about, and if you start straying away from the topic, you need to bring each other back. Because again, the whole point of this is to stay on the task of making the decision. So if you start talking about something else, gently bring either yourself back or your spouse back.
Okay, so you also say arrange for success.
Well, think about this.
Okay.
If you're trying to make a big decision, like maybe how much we're going to save for college, making it at 10:30 at night when one or both of you are exhausted, or trying to make that decision as you're running out the door, taking the kids to soccer practice, that's not a good time. Think about the context of the decision and what's going on, or even things like making decisions about your kids' activities right in front of the kids. So you have to set up the environment and the time to support the decision.
Okay, recruit support, is that fair though?
Yes, well, here's what I mean by that. Remind each other that we're not here to win a contest. A lot of times what starts off as we're going to make a decision together turns into who's going to win. It's going to be my decision versus your decision. So remind each other, look, we're trying to make this decision. We're not trying to have a battle where one of us wins and one of us loses.
And the best part is treat yourself. I like that.
This is important psychologically because if you get through the process and you make the decision, reminding each other that, hey, this worked, this is a good thing, is going to anchor you back so the next time you have to make a decision, you're more likely to use this process.
All right, Dr. Josh, as always, great advice.
Thanks, Gina.
All right, Mark?